So I'm sitting on the back porch this morning with a cup of coffee. So I just woke up and it is the second weekend of September. We're starting to feel fall temperatures for sure. And there's a bumblebee flying around. This was a production. We have our first vegetable grown.
Look at that, we're already lost.
So I don't think we started the fall garden per se, like in probably the way we're supposed to, but we had beets, peas, Welcome back. Thank you for joining another video. In my last video, I talked about moving from New York to New Jersey. I talked about getting settled in my new place, starting my garden, but it was the middle of summer. So most of the things I was trying to grow, I was really just trying to get a win where I could, and we got some wins. So I felt good about the flowers, sunflowers, marigolds, bluebonnets, handful of things were growing, but I really didn't have high expectations for starting a garden in May and trying to grow fruits and vegetables through June, July. So that's kind of where I left off in the last video. And so overall a success, but not everything was super successful. I was trying to grow zucchini in the raised bed. The zucchini did grow plants, they grew leaves, and they grew flowers. And I think that's where things pretty much petered out. The flowers weren't creating vegetables. My understanding is that's a pollination problem more than likely. I did try to intervene in the pollination process. So I decided I was gonna let the birds and bees do what they do, and if no fruit, that's fine. So moved on from that. I actually removed the marigolds and removed the zucchini from the raised bed. I repotted the marigolds. The zucchini will just have to try again this year. And then I started planting fall vegetables in the raised bed. So I've always heard start with your leafy greens, your herbs, things like that. So I sowed beets first. I had peas in the raised bed. And then I also sowed things like broccoli, a mixed variety of kale, arugula. I'm sure I oversowed all the seeds. I didn't know where anything was in the bed. I just was putting it, I had a plan in my head. I even wrote it down, but then what actually got in the soil and where it was, I couldn't tell you. So it was really just gonna be a surprise to me when things started growing, what was growing where, and what was going to be successful. Just a couple of days ago, I planted new seedlings of some greens, and it looks like they're coming up. So I'm hoping that all these little sprouts are all of the arugula and kale and broccoli. Fall garden is growing, all the sprouts are coming up. I'm starting to think that I can distinguish the arugula leaves are the more narrow ones, and then the spiky ones are more like a kale. Like these are a little bigger. These have got to be arugula. I might need to space them out, but some are getting really big. I don't know how we missed this. But we have our first vegetable grown out of the raised bed. I was just watering the raised bed. It looks great. There's so many good vegetables. And look how strong these pea plants look. The new ones that we planted, way stronger than these old ones that we planted too soon. But these little guys still made a pea pod with a pea in it. So now I'm conflicted because I was gonna pull this thing up, but I'm just too proud of it now. So maybe I'll just water it some more, let it live its life, see what happens.
but that gives me a lot more confidence for these guys that are actually looking strong, that they'll make a few peas.
Now, after a summer of having basically nothing to eat out of the garden, despite my trials and tribulations, I was so stoked to see a pea on the vine, as I'm sure you can tell. I was like telling everybody, I grew a pea, and it was like this big. So I thought it was so fun. I started taste testing the different greens and could really tell the difference between each of the kales and arugula. So I was excited that I could start to actually eat something out of this garden, but I didn't want to rush it. You got to give it time. You have to water your garden. You have to make sure that it's got the right lighting, that it's, you know, not getting eaten by pests. And I could be one of those pests, you know, I'm the one eating it that can still damage the plant. So now that I had the raised bed going, I had plenty of plants in it, things were really starting to take off. I was open to plant and grow anything. Those garlic in the pantry that grew a little bit too long and started growing roots, they're going in the bed. There they are. Anything that I thought would maybe grow into a plant was going in the dirt to see what happened. I was more than eager to start harvesting things, but I didn't have anything to harvest in my own backyard. But there was a nearby farm that had plenty. So I actually loaded up all my friends into my car. We drove about an hour out to a local farm and got to see all the things that they were doing. Now, this was a production. They had a petting zoo, a market you could buy their products. They had a live music performance while we were there. They actually drove us around the farm on like a hay wagon if you didn't want to walk the hundreds of acres that they had as well. So a lot to see. Fruits, fruit orchards, vegetables. They had this really cool like pumpkin patch display thing. We even went through the corn maze and successfully got out of the corn maze.
Look at that, we're already lost.
We maybe got lost at times, but we did make it out. They had this massive, probably full acre of sunflowers, just huge sunflowers, taller than me. I was calling it the sunflower army. Like, that was crazy. I would love to see that in my own backyard if I wasn't doing all these other things as well. Back at home, in addition to the leafy greens in the raised bed, I was also starting to see cherry tomatoes and gardener tomatoes growing in my pots as well. So it was really cool to see them start to turn color. I was surprised to see that they turned color like down the row instead of just all at once. I mean, learning your plants, learning your backyard is a really cool experience for me. I had 4 to 6 tomato plants that were ready for harvest at any given time, which was enough for me to harvest a handful of tomatoes, a few leaves of beets or arugula to go along with an omelet once on the weekends. Which again, I will take that. I think I had an omelet 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row with vegetables from my own backyard to contribute to the meal. So I think that's super cool. That's the goal. And while the temperatures were moderate in the fall time, and while the sun was still shining enough on my backyard to provide the plants enough, sunlight, then I really feel good about having a weekly harvest. Now, you know that I felt good about this harvest because I was texting everybody, look at my 3 tomatoes I harvested today, look at my two leaves that I added to my omelet. But again, I'll take it. That's what the journey is for me. The next thing to start to ripen after the tomatoes were the habaneros. It was starting to get too cold for them to be outside, so I brought those into the house, but they still made plenty of peppers. They started to ripen. We got to harvest some of those for soups. throw in some of those herbs, rosemary, thyme, habanero, put all that in a chicken soup. So good. So we had some really good meals. Again, love to share the harvest with anybody who's willing to try. So we had some fun trying out the habaneros on some pizza. So I had been watching the weather. I was a little worried that things were going to turn for the worst during the week of Thanksgiving. I would be traveling and not able to take care of anything outside. So I did one last big harvest of anything that I thought was edible and then left for the holiday. Alas, the weather did take most of the plants that we tried to grow. Those peas that I thought were going to be so strong never ended up making peas. The broccoli never headed up. They only ever made leaves. Again, trials and tribulations. I feel excited always, whether I get a harvest or not, just to be able to plant things and watch it grow and see what happens. When I look back on this first fall garden that I grew, I was inspired by, I harvested, I got to share and enjoy with others. I'm not disappointed by the small harvest at all, because I think the small wins are still wins, you know? The things that I learned here so far, I mean, I had never been to my local farm, and now I have, and I shared that experience with several of my friends, which was really fun. I hope they had fun. Thank you guys for going with me. Making that transition between summer and fall, it's kind of hard to pull the plug on some of your plants that you thought were gonna do better but didn't end up doing anything. And I think there's something to be said there too about transitioning in between seasons and then having the patience to watch something grow, be hopeful for it, not stunt it too much, you know, really just let it be and do what it's gonna do. And I really got to watch it. We will see soon in my future videos what survived the winter, what is still growing outside, and then what I'm trying new this coming season as things start to warm up.